be seated. Our scripture reading is in your bulletin again. It's extremely brief, so if you missed it. Exodus 20, 15 through 17. You shall not steal. You shall not give false testimony against your neighbor. You shall not covet your neighbor's house. You shall not covet your neighbor's wife, or his male or female servant, his ox or donkey, or anything belongs to your neighbor. There was a thief one time. He broke into a house. So he starts rummaging through this house and he's stealing things. And he hears a voice say, "Jesus is watching you." Startled, looks around, can't see anybody. Figures that he must have just imagined this. So he goes back to stealing things again, and again he hears this voice, "Jesus is watching you." So he very carefully gets his flashlight out and he starts to look around the house to see where the sound came from, and he saw a parrot in the corner of the house on a perch. And so he relaxes. He goes, "Oh, it's just a parrot." So he says, "Birdie, what's your name?" He wasn't really expecting the parrot to answer, but the parrot did. It said, "Moses." And he starts laughing. He goes, "What kind of an idiot would name their parrot Moses?" And the parrot answered. He said, "Same idiots who named their Rottweiler Jesus." This morning we're going to look at the last three commandments. And the first one that we're looking at is the 8th commandment, which is, "You shall not steal." Now that one is about as straightforward as you can get. Just as straightforward as you shall not murder and you shall not, commit adultery. But there are some ambiguities in this commandment as well. The first one is the word that is used for steal. There are two different Hebrew words for steal. The first one is ganab, and that's the word that we find here in Exodus 20. And that means to steal by stealth. But there's a second Hebrew word, which is the Hebrew word gazal, which means to steal by force, armed robbery. But the word that is used here is that word ganab, and there really doesn't seem to be a real rhyme or reason as to why this particular word is used, or why not both words being used. You shall not steal by force, you shall not steal by deceit or by fraud. But it just uses the one word ganab. But I think the emphasis is not so much whether you steal by force or you steal by stealth, that you realize that stealing is taking something that doesn't belong to you. It's not yours. And that seems to be the main emphasis here. But this is a freebie for you, okay? A sideline here. 3 times in the scripture, the word ganab is translated as kidnap. Translated as kidnap. Now, there are some scholars who think that that's the real emphasis of this verse, is you shall not kidnap or steal other people. Now, that's probably not true, because only 3 times it's translated that way, and there's a very strong, very convincing argument that the word ganab only means kidnapping when it's linked up with another specific word, and that only happens 3 different times. But here's where the aside comes. Is that how many of you have ever wished that there were more than 10 commandments? One of the commandments I really wish that God would have given is, "Thou shalt not kidnap." Because there's 2 reasons why you kidnap. The first one is the most obvious, is you kidnap somebody for ransom. The second reason why you kidnap, and the most damaging, is you kidnap in order to sell somebody into slavery. How much economic and social harm if we have avoided, God would have had an 11th commandment that said, "You shall not own or sell another human being." That's an argument and a sermon for another time and another place. So this is the ambiguity of this verse is, okay, most of us realize that stealing is not right, and so it falls into this yes but thing again. And so what we want to know then is, well, what's property? If I'm not supposed to steal, well, what exactly do people steal? What is property? And what I would argue with this, and what I think the scriptures are saying, is that the category for what we steal is a whole lot broader than what we think it is. This past week, I had a phone call when I was in the office, and was on the church line, came on my cell phone. And this guy called up, and he identified himself as being Jeffrey Douglas. And my name's Jeffrey Douglas, and he says that I work for Publishers Clearinghouse on their prize control. And he said, you have won $750,000. What do you think? Well, I thought, this is too good to be true. He then gives me his badge number. He gives me the name of the supposed ticket that I had won, and he gave me the name of the IRS agent that would come with the prize patrol when they came to the house, because the IRS would need to take 1% of my earnings up front, because of what I had won. And so I needed to go to Walmart and to purchase a $750 card in order to give to the IRS guy when he showed up. I said I didn't have $750 this time, so he says, well, when can you get it? And when can you go to Walmart? And I said, I can go over the lunch hour. So 1 o'clock, he said, I'll call you back. In the meantime, I called Publishers Clearinghouse. And I had asked him if he had a number that I could call. He wouldn't give me a number. So I got on the internet, called Publishers Clearinghouse, and talked to the prize patrol. And they say, no, we never call ahead. The point is, we surprise you. We never ask for any money. You are being scammed. Please tell us you didn't send him any money. No, I figured that I was probably being scammed. But isn't it amazing how quickly we start thinking of how we'd spend that $750,000? I was, when he was talking to me, I was thinking, God, I really hope this is true. So I can see how people fall into this. And so when he called back, I had great fun. Ken was with me. And when he called back, I said, you're a scammer, and hung up with him. And afterwards, I thought, you know what I really needed to say to him was, how do you sleep at night? Do you not know the 8th commandment, thou shalt not steal? Because scamming is stealing. Now here's where I'm going to hit us, is we don't think that we scam. But we scam each other all the time. Every time we make a promise to somebody, telling them that we're going to do something, provide for them, give something to them, and we don't keep our promise, we're scamming. We're scamming them. We're stealing from them their time, their expectations of us. The scriptures speak often about using dishonest weights. The way dishonest weights work is that you would buy things according, you would pay so many ounces of silver, or so many ounces of gold for so many, pounds of flour or whatever. And what you would do to cheat somebody is, instead of you use the scale balance, and they would make it so that the weight that you put in the scale that's supposed to equal the so many ounces of gold or silver, they would fudge that. And so it would weigh more, so that you would end up paying more gold or silver for the item that you were buying. They're cheating. Anytime we cheat people when we are selling them something that we know is not of the value of which we are asking for, we're stealing. If you sell your used car and you advertise your car as being in perfect working order, and yet you know that the transmission is going out of it, you're stealing from them. You're using dishonest ways. This is the one that gives me time. We steal time. When somebody makes an appointment with you and you are late, you're intentionally late because you think something else was more important, you're stealing time from them. When you short your timesheet, when you leave early and for work, come home early from work, or if you go late, you're stealing time. If you're playing games on your telephone instead of working or studying and doing your classes when you're supposed to be doing it, you're stealing time. Anybody feeling guilty yet? Besides me? Sometimes you will get, this is particularly true of pastors, by the way, is that we will get credit for something that we didn't really do. Somebody else did. And somebody will give you credit for having done something that you didn't do. And you don't correct them. You accept that praise and honor. So you're stealing credit from somebody else. Pastors are notorious for this because I'll tell you some really good jokes or stories, and you'll think that they're original with me. They're not. I learned those things from somebody else. I borrowed those things from somebody else. It's stealing if you don't cite your references and where you got information and stories and teachings. Because we want people to think higher of us than we really are, don't we? We want them to think that we're more clever, that we're smarter, that we're better than what we are. We're stealing. We're stealing credit, we're stealing words. When you gossip about somebody in order to bring them down, in order to lift them up, you're stealing their reputation. Stealing their reputation. You do harm to them. And then lastly, there's such a thing as intellectual property. You can steal people's ideas and then take them as your own. You can steal people's talent and begin to use it as your own. I find that we steal a whole lot more than what we think we do. We like to think that we are honest people. We're honest about 80% of the time. It's about 20% of the time we're wrong. But then again, all statistics are just made up. And so, but we are stealers. And it's not just a parrot Moses and a Rottweiler named Jesus who's watching us. So I suspect the reason why the word gunab was used, not the word gazelle, is that we know that armed robbery is wrong. But when it comes to stealing by stealth, we get a little bit wishy-washy. We want to just simply call it artistic or creative license, or being just a little lax or a little loose. We don't want to really call it what it is, because we want to think we're honest. Number 9. Thou shalt not bear false witness against your neighbor. You shall not bear false witness against your neighbor. Now this again is one of those commandments that seems pretty straightforward. Basically means you're not supposed to lie. But it falls into the yes but category, doesn't it? Because we always think of excuses as to when it is permissible to lie. Now the entire legal system, both the Hebrew legal system and our modern day legal system, is based upon telling the truth. It is essential in the court system that witnesses tell us the truth. And that's why you have an oath when you are a witness. And you all know the oath. You've heard this numerous times, right? You promise to tell the truth, the whole truth, and... So why is it a threefold oath? It's because the first part is you're supposed to tell the truth, not an outright lie. The purpose of a witness is to verify the truthfulness of something that has happened. A false witness is somebody who verifies that something is true when they know for a fact that it is not. It is a false testimony as to what has happened. And so when you're in a courtroom, it says, do you promise to tell the truth? Are you going to be a truthful witness? So we say yes. But then it says, are you going to tell us the whole truth? Because one of the ways that we lie is we don't tell the whole truth, we tell a partial truth. We leave things out so that you will draw a wrong conclusion because you don't have the whole story. Or, if that's not bad enough, and it says you promise to tell nothing but the truth. And that's because other times the way that we lie is we exaggerate. We add some things to it, which again leads people to draw a conclusion that we know is wrong. So that's why we take that oath of office, that we will say the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth. But that's the way that we are supposed to be in everything that we do in our life. All of our social interaction with people needs to be based upon honesty and upon telling the truth. Where the yes but comes in is we can always think of excuses as to where I shouldn't tell the truth. What if I tell the truth and it's going to hurt somebody? What if I tell the truth and it might in jeopardy their life? And we can always think of those examples, can't we? And they're always extreme examples. And there's one of those in the Bible where Rahab shields the two spies that are coming to look at the city of Jericho, and when the guards come and they say, have you seen them? She lies. She says, no, they've already ran away, and she has been hiding them, up on her roof. But the reason why those are exceptions is because they are exceptions. Most of the time, the reason why we lie is not in order to protect other people, but to protect ourselves. Not to protect other people. There's a movie with Jim Carrey in it called Liar, Liar. It's not one of those movies I highly recommend. It doesn't get 2 thumbs up from me, by the way. But it does have an interesting plot line to it, in that Jim Carrey plays a lawyer. He is divorced, and he has a little boy, and he tells his little boy that he's going to be there for his birthday party, and yet he's off running around with his girlfriend. He doesn't show up at his birthday party. His son is very disappointed, so his mother and stepdad, say, well, your dad's a jerk. He says, make a wish on your birthday cake. And so what this little boy wishes is that his father, Jim Carrey, would not be able to lie for 24 hours. So you see all of these hilarious places where he's extremely rude and obnoxious because he can't tell a lie. So that's where the humor comes, kind of crude. And then he isn't able to be a good lawyer. He isn't able to lie in the courtroom and to manipulate the judges. But the frustration that he has of not being able to lie. You've seen the television commercials for Citibank where they say, what if everybody said that they really did? So there's the one where there's this couple that are just finishing up a date, and the girl says to him, I had a great time. And he says, I had a great time too. And she says, call me tomorrow. He says, no, I'll wait 2 days and I'll send you a vague text as to what my intentions are. And then she says, good. And I'll wait 2 days to respond with something equally vague. And then as he helps her to the car, he says, we're never going to see each other again. She says, right. And then the commercial, of course, says, what if people really said what they meant? And then the point is they're saying that our credit card, we mean what we say with our credit card, and we protect you from bank fraud and that sort of a thing. But the reason why we lie is not because we really want to protect somebody else. We lie because we want to protect ourselves. And we call it little white lies, flattery, bidding. It's the grease, that does all of our social actions. And guess what? That's a lie. That's not a truth either. One of the pastor's sermons that I was reading this week, I can't tell you his name, but I could look it up for you. I'm going to make sure that I cite my sources now for you. But he said that we've all heard the phrase that Jesus says in the Gospel of John, the truth shall set you free. We've all heard that, right? But he says, how many of us really experience that? And he says, we don't. The truth doesn't set us free, nor does it heal us. And he said the reason why is because before the truth will set you free, and before the truth will heal you, it's going to hurt. Because we oftentimes need to go back and confess that we have lied, fibbed, or used flattery, and then weren't really honest with them. And we can't receive the healing and the freedom until we first clean up the mess that we made. You ever notice that telling lies is like trying to keep an inverted pyramid up? When you start to tell a lie, you have to tell another lie to keep that one straight. You need to tell another lie after that to keep it straight. Remember the country western song where the guy says, "That's my story and I'm sticking to it"? We get stuck. We get caught. And that's part of the pain of lying, is that we end up being frauds. And it hurts to come clean. But in the long run, when we finally do that, we are set free. And we are healed. And the last one. You shall not covet your neighbors. And you get this whole list of things. You shouldn't covet your neighbor's house. You shouldn't covet their wife. You can't covet their oxen, their donkey, their new car, their promotion, all of these various things. And the word covet means to desire or want what belongs to somebody else, to focus upon that. But the key thing that is happening in this commandment is that it says, you shall not covet your neighbor. Your neighbor. You see, who we covet from is our neighbor, not strangers. How many of you covet, for you guys, how many of you covet Tom Brady's house? How many of you covet Tom Brady's supermodel wife? Why not? He's wealthy, he's got a huge house, drives nice cars, has a supermodel wife. We don't covet that because we don't know Tom Brady. Big deal. Who are we subject to covet from? The guy at school who's dating the girlfriend that I wanted to be. My neighbor. The guy at work who got the promotion that I thought that I should have gotten. My neighbor. The guy who got the new house that I thought that I should have been able to afford to get. My neighbor. The guy who's driving the fancy new car that I know that he can't afford. And neither can I, but I want one. I want that one. The people we covet from is our neighbor, because we begin to compare ourselves with them and thinking that what they have, they don't deserve it, but I do. I deserve it, not them. And that's what it means to covet. It means to dehumanize somebody else and their possessions because you think you deserve it and you're more desiring of that and more deserving of that than what they are. You realize coveting was the first sin, by the way? It was the first sin in the Garden of Eden. The serpent comes up to Eve and she says, tempts her, and he says, God says you can't have that. So the forbidden fruit, that which she couldn't have, is what she began to covet. And that's you and I. That which is forbidden, that's what's not intended for us, but for somebody else, we begin to covet. You realize that coveting is the basis for all of the commandments. It could have been the first commandment. Because what we covet is we want to be God. I want to be number one in my life. My God. So I try to control God. I try to control God by making idols. That's the purpose of an idol. Manipulate it and make God do what you want God to do. The reason why you want to know God's name is because if you know God's name, then you can manipulate God to do what you want, and you can use his name to curse other people. And the reason for Sabbath is so that we would put God first and recognize his sovereignty rather than our being in control. So we covet. We want to be God. And when you begin to covet that, then you see yourself as being the most important. You become number one. You're selfish. Consequently, then, relationships are no longer important because you're utilitarian. They're how people can benefit you. And so when your parents go from being an economic asset to a liability, you start them. If your marriage is no longer satisfying to you, or you see some other girl or some other guy who you think is more appealing, you go for it. You know, if you want something that doesn't belong to you, you take it. Because why? I deserve it. I deserve it. Coveting is the basis for all of the other sins that are taking place in the Ten Commandments. So to covet, the last part of this thing, although, is to covet my neighbor's house, wife, or property means that I'm not grateful for what God has given me. If I covet my neighbor's house, it means that I don't like my house. If I covet my neighbor's wife and family, it means I'm not satisfied with my wife or my family, or my husband, or my children. If I covet my neighbor's car, it means I don't appreciate the car that God has allowed me to have. So we become people not only selfish, but we lack gratitude. Again, there's another country western song which said, if you want what you have, you'll always have what you want. Remember that country song has that line in it? If you want what you have, you'll always have what you want. You want what you have? If you don't, you're not grateful. You're prime for coveting. So here we are. We're done with the Ten Commandments. Yay! Thank you, Jesus. Here's what they are. Keep God first because it's not about you. It's not about me. That's number one. Don't try to control God by making idols. That's the purpose of an idol. And if we get these first two commandments right, that God's first and we can't control him, everything else is going to kind of fall into place. Don't misuse God's name to try to control God or to harm others. And submit to God's sovereignty. That's what Sabbath is all about. It's orienting our life around God. If we submit to God's sovereignty, we can receive his rest that he's provided for us. And if we keep those two commandments of not misusing his name, trying to harm other people, and accepting his sovereignty, orienting his life around him, we'll receive a blessing. And that's how we can keep God first and avoid trying to control God. Keeping Sabbath. Honor and respect your parents. The main point of that commandment is it was written to sons, adult sons. When your parents are no longer an economic asset but become a liability, you don't discard them. So what that covenant tells us is that people have value even when they cease being an economic or a social asset. If we get this one right, we don't treat people as things, but as being in the image of God, all the other relationships will work themselves out. So consequently, we can honor and respect life because murder is the ultimate disrespect. You don't have to just murder people physically. You murder them by anger. Honor and respect marriage. Adultery murders marriage. And it steals trust. Be honest. Respect other people's property. Realizing that property is a lot broader than what we think it is. Tell the truth. It will set you free. It will heal you. But for some of us, it's going to hurt first. And then lastly, be content with all that God has blessed you with. If you're content, you probably are not going to fall to covet. Be content. Now, if that was too much to remember, Jesus summed it up into two commandments. Somebody asked him, he said, what's the greatest commandment? He was expecting that Jesus would say one of the Ten Commandments. He doesn't even quote one of the Ten Commandments. He he quotes the Shema out of the book of Deuteronomy. The Lord your God is one. Love the Lord your God with all your heart, all your soul, with all your might. And then he said the second commandment is like it. Love your neighbor as you love yourself. You get those two right, you have summed up not just the 10 commandments, you have summed up all of the commandments that are found in the Scripture. And if you can't figure out how to love your neighbor as you love yourself, Jesus gave us the golden rule on the Mount. Do unto others as you would have others do unto you. You know how you love people? Love's a verb, by the way. It's not an emotion. You love people when you simply treat them the same way